What if your body could burn fat for 8 straight hours without you lifting a single weight, taking a single step, or doing anything at all? Sounds impossible, right? You're lying still, eyes closed, completely unconscious. No movement, no gym, no sweat. So how could fat loss possibly be happening while you sleep? Here's the twist nobody tells you. Sleep is actually one of the best fat-burning windows your body experiences all day. And the reason is surprisingly simple. You're not eating while you sleep. No food means no insulin spike, and insulin is the single biggest brake on releasing fat from storage. So at night, with insulin low, your body naturally shifts toward burning fat instead of carbs for fuel. You are literally burning fat while you dream. But before you get excited, let me be clear about something important. I'm not handing you a bizarre biohack or some unconventional trick nobody has heard of. What you're about to learn are real, research-backed strategies that increase how much fat your body burns overnight, so you wake up having actually made progress. Before any of that, though, there's one rule you need to lock into your brain, because everything else depends on this first. Never, ever sacrifice your sleep just to squeeze in extra activity. That trade is almost always a losing one for your body and your goals. If you had to choose between sleeping at 8 p.m. or staying up until 10 p.m. to fit in 2 hours of cardio, choose sleep every time. Sleep is the bigger lever here, and it's not even close once you understand what's actually happening inside your body overnight. Let me show you exactly why, because there's a study that proves this point far better than I ever could explain it alone. Researchers published this in the journal Sleep, running an 8-week trial with a setup that was elegant in its simplicity and brutal honesty. 2 groups of people restricted their calories by the exact same amount, scaled appropriately to their body weight, so the deficit stayed identical. The only difference between them was sleep. One group slept normally each night, while the other had their sleep cut down significantly. That second group slept just 5.5 hours a night for 5 nights straight, then got 2 nights to recover and catch up. This mimicked a realistic, exhausting work week that many people actually live through without even realizing the damage happening underneath the surface. Here's where things get genuinely interesting, and honestly a little surprising once you see the full picture laid out clearly. Both groups lost the exact same amount of weight by the end of the 8 weeks. Identical numbers on the scale, no difference at all. This tells us something powerful. The basic math of calories in versus calories out didn't break down in either group during this experiment. But weight loss and fat loss are not the same thing, and this is exactly where the real story splits wide open for us. The sleep-restricted group burned 56% less fat as a percentage of their total fuel use during the entire study period. The well-rested group only burned 26% less fat. That gap between those two numbers is massive and impossible to ignore. Sleep deprivation didn't change how much weight came off overall, but it completely changed what kind of weight was actually being lost. The tired group lost muscle and water weight alongside fat, while the rested group lost fat far more selectively and efficiently. It gets worse for the sleep-deprived group, too. Their leptin levels dropped by 24% over the course of the study. Leptin isn't just the hormone that tells your brain you're full after eating. It also has a lipolytic effect on your body. That means leptin actively encourages your body to release stored fat and burn it for energy throughout the day and night. When leptin drops, that fat-mobilizing signal gets quieter, and your body becomes less efficient at pulling fat out of storage. On top of that, the resting metabolic rate of the sleep-restricted group actually decreased during the study, slowing their entire metabolic engine down. If this study had run longer than 8 weeks, that sleep-deprived group would likely have plateaued hard, while the rested group kept improving. So now you understand the real foundation here. Sleep itself is biochemically active, not just passive downtime for your tired body. It's prime time for one very specific kind of metabolism, and that's fat-burning metabolism happening quietly while you're completely unaware. Low insulin during sleep opens the door for fat to leave storage and enter your bloodstream as usable, burnable energy. Here's a detail almost nobody talks about. Roughly 70% of your entire day's growth hormone release happens during deep, slow-wave sleep. Growth hormone is one of the most powerful natural drivers of fat oxidation that your body produces on its own. Disrupt your slow-wave sleep, and you're directly cutting off a massive growth hormone pulse, along with a huge fat-burning opportunity. So the real question becomes obvious now. How do you actually protect that nightly window and make sure your body uses it fully? Let's start with something simple but powerful: what you eat in the hours leading up to bedtime each night. If you're going to eat anything after dinner, it absolutely needs to be low in carbohydrates, not high-fat snacks loaded with sugar. To be fair, I'm not against carbs in the evening entirely, since having them a few hours before bed can actually help sleep. But once you're inside that 4-hour window before lights out, your snack should be high-fat, low-carb, and lighter on protein. Protein will still raise insulin a little, just through a different pathway, so it's not really the enemy in this situation. Carbs, though, spike insulin hard and fast, which creates a real problem for your fat-burning window right as you fall asleep. A carb spike right before bed means your body spends the first hours of sleep waiting for insulin to come back down. You're essentially delaying your own fat-burning window before it even gets a real chance to properly begin working for you. Something simple like a small handful of macadamia nuts or a bit of full-fat yogurt usually does the trick perfectly fine. Sometimes adding a touch of protein helps people wind down faster, and that's completely okay within this overall approach to evening snacking. The principle stays the same no matter what you choose. Keep it low carb and let insulin stay low as you drift off. Now, here's a tip that sounds almost too simple to matter, but you have to be careful with exactly how you use it. Water timing plays a surprisingly large role in how your body burns fat throughout the day, including during sleep itself. There's fascinating research showing people who drank about 500 milliliters of water before each meal lost more weight overall. They also improved their BMI more than people who skipped this simple habit entirely throughout the same study period. The theory behind this is thermogenesis. Your body expends real energy warming that water up and moving it across cell membranes. It's a measurable metabolic cost, small on its own, but meaningful when repeated consistently across breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. Here's the catch, though. Chugging a large amount of water right before bed is actually a pretty terrible idea for your sleep. You'll wake up needing to pee, and that interruption can fracture your slow-wave sleep and blunt the growth hormone pulse we discussed. So the smarter move is front-loading your hydration before dinner instead, getting in that same 500 milliliters earlier in the evening. You still capture the thermic boost to your metabolism, but you avoid setting yourself up for a disruptive bathroom trip overnight. Speaking of disruption, let's talk about protecting deep sleep itself, because this is genuinely where the real fat-burning magic happens. There's a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition looking specifically at what fuel your body burns during fragmented broken sleep. Unsurprisingly, fragmented sleep disrupted both slow-wave sleep and REM sleep significantly compared to participants who slept through the night undisturbed. But here's the part that should really grab your attention and change how you think about nighttime interruptions going forward. When sleep was broken up repeatedly, the body shifted toward burning more carbs and noticeably less fat throughout the entire night. Every time you wake up and fall back asleep, your fat-burning engine essentially resets to zero and has to rebuild momentum again. The likely culprit here is disrupted growth hormone, with fewer and weaker pulses sending out that important fat oxidizing signal to your cells. Once that signal weakens, your body defaults back toward burning carbohydrates instead, even though you're still technically asleep the whole time. So, protecting slow-wave sleep isn't some minor detail you can ignore. It's actually central to this entire fat-burning equation we're exploring. Let's go through a few practical ways you can genuinely protect and improve your slow-wave sleep starting tonight, not someday in the future. First, increase your fiber intake consistently throughout the week, because fiber feeds the bacteria that support deeper, more restorative sleep stages. There's a strong, well-documented link between a diverse gut microbiome and the overall quality of your slow-wave sleep each night. Specifically, bacteria that produce butyrate, like certain lactobacillus strains, seem to play a meaningful role in supporting deeper sleep architecture. Chia seeds and flax seeds are an easy, practical way to bring more fiber into your diet without overcomplicating your meals. You don't need to overload on them either. Just work small amounts into lunch and dinner consistently throughout your normal week. I'd actually avoid loading up on fiber at breakfast, because by bedtime you might be dealing with bloating instead of better sleep. Second, having some carbohydrates 3 to 4 hours before bed can genuinely help you fall asleep faster and more easily. This timing also helps you slip into those deep, slow wave stages more readily than eating carbs right before lights out. Third, something like raw kefir, a probiotic-rich dairy product, seems to have a real and noticeable positive effect on sleep quality. We don't fully understand every mechanism behind why this works, but the pattern shows up again and again across different people. Fourth, magnesium deserves serious attention here. Around 4 to 500 milligrams of dimagnesium malate can make a real difference. It interacts with NMDA receptors in a way that calms brain activity and physically relaxes your muscle tissue before sleep. This combination eases you into sleep more naturally and helps you spend more total time in those valuable deep sleep stages. Now let's get a bit more specific, because exercise plays a fascinating role here too, and not in the way most people assume. Growth hormone doesn't surge dramatically right after your workout the way a lot of people mistakenly picture it happening immediately. The real magic actually happens later that night, while you sleep, not in the gym during your actual training session itself. Exercise acts more like a catalyst, setting up bigger growth hormone spikes during your deep sleep hours that evening after training. One study found that low-intensity training boosted growth hormone release during slow-wave sleep by roughly 45% compared to no exercise. High-intensity interval training pushed that number past 60%, which is a genuinely meaningful difference between the two approaches. But before you decide to go all in on high-intensity training every single day of the week, here's an important trap to avoid. Constant high-intensity work keeps your nervous system locked in a stressed, sympathetic state, making it harder to fall and stay asleep. So the smarter approach involves balance, mixing both intensities thoughtfully throughout your week instead of choosing one extreme over the other. 3 to 4 days a week of lower intensity training supports your sleep architecture without overstimulating your nervous system before bedtime. Pair that with 2 to 3 days of higher intensity work to capture that extra growth hormone boost without overdoing it constantly. You're not chasing maximum intensity every single day. You're chasing consistency with smart variation built thoughtfully into your weekly training schedule. Last piece of this puzzle, and this one might genuinely surprise you, involves the actual timing of your meals throughout the day. There's a study published in PLOS Biology comparing two groups eating the exact same total amount of food, just spaced very differently. One group ate a normal breakfast, lunch, and dinner schedule, spread evenly across their waking hours like most people typically do. The other group shifted everything later, with a later breakfast, later lunch, and a late night meal close to actual bedtime. Total calories burned at rest stayed identical between both groups, with no measurable difference in overall resting energy expenditure during the study. But the late eating group showed a clear metabolic shift, burning more carbs and noticeably less fat throughout their entire night. Same calories consumed, same overall energy expenditure measured, but a completely different fuel mix being used while each group actually slept. So here's the practical takeaway you can use immediately. Eating earlier in the day sets your body up to burn more fat overnight. Giving yourself a longer gap before bed matters just as much as what you actually eat during that earlier window. If you want to take it a step further, consider skipping dinner entirely a couple of days each week as an experiment. Eat a bigger breakfast, a bigger lunch, hit your same total calories for the day, just shift the timing earlier overall. It sounds extreme written out plainly like that, but the underlying effects on your sleep and metabolism are genuinely real and measurable. You get a modest lift in growth hormone from the fasting window itself, layered on top of lower insulin levels overnight. There's also a simple, often overlooked advantage here: going to bed without a heavy, full stomach weighing down your sleep quality. So if you zoom out and look at the entire picture together, Fat loss while you sleep was never about doing more. It was never about midnight workouts, extreme diets, or some secret supplement hiding in a bottle somewhere, waiting to be discovered. It's about protecting the conditions your body already naturally wants to use every single night without you forcing anything extra. Low insulin, strong growth hormone pulses, and uninterrupted deep sleep. These three things form the entire foundation of this process. Get those three things right, even just slightly better than you currently manage them, and real change starts happening automatically overnight. Your body will quietly do the rest of the work while you're completely unconscious, unaware, and simply resting through the night. That's the actual secret hiding behind all of this information we just walked through together from start to finish. There never was a hidden trick waiting to be discovered. There was only ever the underlying science, and now you genuinely understand it. Protect your sleep first, time your meals thoughtfully, move your body with balance, and let your biology handle the rest quietly. That's the entire approach laid out clearly, with nothing exaggerated and nothing left out that actually matters for real results.